Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Adina, for being here with me today as we go over some of this information for the September 14th election. I am going to put it in presentation mode so we can get started. So again, thank you so much for being here, and I hope this is helpful for all of the folks in our network who are interested in engaging their residents and getting some information for themselves and their residents about what's coming up for this election on September 14th. So just to intro myself, my name is Azul. I use they, them pronouns. I'm the Senior Advocacy and Community Engagement Manager at NPH. I have a long history of working in affordable housing in different capacities. So I'm super excited to be able to share this type of advocacy content to our broader network here at NPH. My role is really to support our members to establish and refine their voter engagement strategies at an organizational level, as well as provide leadership development and professional development pathways for resident services staff and any other folks who are interested in getting involved in the advocacy and legislative process. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here. And Adina, would you like to say a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. So I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Berkeley, Albany, Emeryville. I'm currently our vice president, but last year I ran our voter services and I got to work with Azul last time. So I'm very grateful to be back. And actually, I'm also on the state board this year as well. So that's exciting. I'm really happy to chat with you all today. We're going to be going over a few things, including voter eligibility. I feel like we just spoke about this like less than a year ago now, but let's go over it again because I think it's important to remember, refresh documents needed to register to vote. Also just like how to register, mail-in ballots, what's going on, like just generally like non-conventional voter options.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Adina.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll answer all your questions, but definitely feel free to contact me if you have follow-ups.
Awesome. So as Adina mentioned, we're going to talk about a few things today. It should be a quick presentation, about 10 to 15 minutes. So thanks so much for taking the time to learn more about this election. So we'll talk a little bit about the voter registration process and eligibility, as Adina mentioned. We'll talk about what may be new for the September 14th election and any frequently asked questions that come up. I'll talk a little bit about why resident voter engagement is important. This presentation is not too much about that, but I want to just make sure to give y'all a little bit of context in case this is your first time attending a workshop with us at NPH, and then upcoming resources at NPH and training opportunities for staff. We'll end with that, and then we'll have a little bit of time. Well, there's not going to be any live questions, but if we had a live audience, we'd have a little bit of time. But anyways, let's hop into it. So Adina, would you like to go a little bit over this? Sorry, we're blocking a little bit of the, oh, here we go.
Sure, yeah, no worries. As it says here, you need to be 18 years on election day, a US citizen and a legal resident of California. Nowadays, folks can pre-register to vote, so I think people get confused a little bit about that. But as long as you're 18 years old on election day, you can't be currently in state or federal prison or on parole for the conviction of a felony. And one thing I like to highlight here is a lot of folks don't realize, like, oh, well, if I'm not on parole anymore and I committed a felony, can I still vote? And the answer is yes. So you just want to make sure you're not blocking anyone else out from voting. Folks who are found mentally incompetent by the court are also not allowed to vote. And in order to register, you'll either need your driver's license number or the last 4 digits of your social security number.
Awesome.
Yeah, and these are a couple different ways that you can register to vote. You can actually go to this website, registertovote.ca.gov or vote.gov. Really just make sure, because we've had a lot of folks who are concerned about, election fraud, voter fraud, things like that. Make sure that the website you're sending folks to is the correct one. And usually that .gov is a good sign of that.
Well, thanks for that extra context. So this is a common question. What if people miss the deadline to register?
Yeah, this is a great question. So I have it on another slide, but the last day to register to vote for this election, because it's September 14th, is actually August 30th. And because you can register to vote online, I think that's a lot more accessible for folks these days, but you can actually go to the DMV. A lot of other places have those paper forms as well. You can still vote, even if you didn't register on the day. And what you would do is you go to your, like it says here, county election office, vote center, if you're in one of those counties that has a vote center, or a polling place, if you're like in Alameda County, and you can register, you can do like a conditional voter registration process, and they'll take your ballot. And so that this is really important to remember, because I think a lot of folks think that if they didn't register, they missed out, and that's not the case. There's provisional ballots. So.
Awesome. And so we'll talk a little bit about what's new for this September 14th election. That's a little bit different than the election in November 2020.
Yeah, so people are like, why are we having this election? Like, what is this election even about? And what we're really talking about here is the governor. So what happened was a petition was passed around and needed to get a certain number, a certain percentage of voters in the state of California. And there are really two questions that you have to answer on this ballot. It's not like our other ballots where there are a million things on it, right? It's just two questions. One is, do you think that the governor should be recalled? And if you say yes, that means you want him to be recalled. If you say no, that means you don't want him to be recalled. And if 1/2 or more of the voters mark yes, then the governor will be recalled. And then that second question we're looking at is, who do we want to replace him if he is recalled? So if he's recalled, whoever is the highest vote getter will become the governor. So right now, I think we have, is it 46, I believe, other candidates that you can look through to figure out how you want to answer that second question. One thing I really want to highlight, and we also talk about this a bit later, but one thing I want to highlight is, even if you say no to the first question, no, I don't want the governor to be recalled, you can still vote on that second question. Who would you want to replace him if he is recalled, is the way to kind of think about it. So I want to highlight that. Every registered voter will receive a mail-in ballot. So if you are registered to vote, you will receive one, and you might have actually already received it, and you're also your residents as well. However, if you do not have your mail-in ballot and you go and check, what we recommend is that you go and check to make sure you're actually registered, and the last day to register is August 30th. You can actually request a mail-in ballot up to September 7th. Now, you don't really want to wait that long. I mean, that's the thing to highlight with your residents, right? Is we want to make sure that we get folks voting earlier, thinking about things earlier. They can also vote in person up to 4 days before September 14th. So that's September 10th. But I highly recommend, because Alameda County says they don't have their official polling places on their website yet, we are telling people to check back to your local registrar of voters. So just no matter which county you're in, check your county registrar of voters website, and it will tell you your polling places if you want to go in person.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that context. So useful. And just to make sure, in case anybody has a question, Adina, do you have a way of defining the word recall that's accessible for people, just to understand what recall is?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Recall would just mean like you don't want him to be the governor anymore. Yeah.
Thanks for clarifying that for people.
Yeah.
And just, let's not assume that everyone understands what that means.
That's totally a good point. It's this whole thing can be a little bit confusing, especially with the terminology.
Yeah. Awesome. And then so we wanted to just share with y'all this early voting website that is part of this California Secretary of State's website, where you can go and see where you can either drop off your mail-in ballot, register that same day, or vote by mail, or vote in a polling place. As Adina mentioned, you can vote up to 4 days before the September 14th election. So please visit this website. I'll move this. So if in case y'all want to look at it, we'll share the links after this chat as well.
And just to clarify, that's 4 days before if you want to vote in person.
Oh, in
and
person.
specifically, yeah, and specifically for Alameda County. So actually, you can already submit your mail-in ballots right now. It's just if you want to vote in person. And this is also Alameda County, because I know you have places in other counties too.
Yeah. So thanks for that context. So I know some of our viewers will be in Alameda County, some will be South Bay, North Bay, or San Francisco County. So the safest thing to do is go to your register of voters office website to find out what's specific to your geography. And then another website we wanted to share with you all is just a frequently asked questions page. In case you have more questions, you can go onto the California Secretary of State website, where they've listed a bunch of different questions people have about this election. We'll go through a few of those on this presentation, but I just wanted to make sure that y'all could get more general information if you were interested. So feel free to visit that website to get more context. So I wanted to ask Adina a few frequently asked questions. We talked a little bit about some of these, but just to make sure that everyone gets some more context for this election. So what does a recall ballot look like?
Yeah, so for recall ballot, it's really just those two questions we spoke about earlier. So one, do you want the governor to stay the governor or to be recalled, right? That's like the first question. So that's like a yes or a no. And then the second question is, who would you want to replace him if he was recalled or removed, right, from office? So like I said, there are many different options for that. So that would be the second question. You'd have to pick from one of those people. You can also put in a write-in candidate, I should add, and that's also an option.
Awesome, thanks for that. So how about, will a replacement candidate's political party preference and occupation be noted on the recall ballot?
Yes, so that's usually what it would say is it would say the person's name, and then it would say their political party and their occupation on there, so you could see. But I always like to go into, if I go vote in person, I always like to kind of have my homework done ahead of time, so I already know who I'm voting for and I won't need to look for that information.
Definitely. It's so cool that you're so prepared. I know for some people, they're making a choice at that moment, so we want to make sure that they know that they have are able to see the political party preference at that day. So will every active registered voter be mailed a vote by mail ballot?
Yes, 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 yes. I have actually already received mine. I don't know if you have.
Yeah, I received mine as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's great. It's good to have it ahead of time. I feel very grateful that California has vote by mail. So
Definitely. And yeah, we're definitely 29 days before the election at this point. It's coming up. Cool. And then, so just to define a little bit more, if I'm voting no, should I still vote for another candidate?
yeah, so it's still, you can still vote for another candidate, because if the governor is replaced, then you will have had a say in who replaces him. And that's important, because I think, you know, folks want to make sure that their votes count. And so a way to do that, just in case, would be to also choose another candidate as well. And I think one thing I said earlier, but want to clarify again, just make sure, just because you vote no and then you vote for another person doesn't mean it kind of negates your no vote. So no still means no. And yeah, go ahead.
To say awesome, no definitely means no. So how about where should I go for information about the candidates that's nonpartisan and non-biased?
Yeah, so votersedge.org is a website that we really push. It's run by the League of Women Voters and, like, obviously this organization, Voters Edge, but we use a lot of League volunteers. And because we're a nonpartisan organization, we don't support or oppose any parties or candidates. So you can go to Voters Edge to learn more about all of those 40 something other candidates that are running for governor. And it'll just be really useful so that you can kind of do your homework ahead of time. So that's what we like to recommend to folks.
Awesome. I hope everyone gets a chance to look at that website, Voters Edge. It's super accessible. It has a search bar, and it's just really a great way to get more information and more context. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about movement building within the affordable housing sector. So again, the reason that we are so focused at NPH about this work and having these conversations about information being put out to residents and to resident services staff and the greater affordable housing industry is we really want to focus on long-term voter turnout and making our voices heard as an affordable housing industry. So in 2020, after doing a series of workshops and, you know, the people on the ground, the resident services staff and their organizations really doing the work, we were able as an industry to register 18,000 new voters, and we had a total turnout of 43,057 residents. So that's a huge accomplishment, and we always like to pose the question, what could we accomplish as an affordable housing industry if all of our residents who are eligible turned out to vote? So that's just something to leave y'all with, and why this conversation is so important about getting information out that's accurate and unbiased to residents. So one thing that y'all can do after this training, we recommend that y'all retweet NPH's Get Out the Vote campaign for the September 14th election. You can share an email with your residents encouraging them to go out and vote to the polls. Go out to the polls on September 14th as well. And you can also be a part of the Community Advocacy and Voter Engagement Certification Program that's coming up in the fall 2021. The start date is September 9th, where we'll go way more in depth about operationalizing resident voter engagement, what that means, and how we can create educational channels where the most amount of people in our communities get information that helps them elevate their voice and turn out to the polls. So thank you so much for being a part of this training. I know it was a really quick, brief one, but if y'all have more questions, please do reach out to me at asul@nonprofithousing.org. Or you can reach out to Adina. I'll share her contact information as well. And we're just really excited to see you all turn out to the polls on September 14th. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You're doing great work. Really appreciate it.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.